Hello, everybody. On this feed, I'm going to identify. Now, the Bible has already outlined and decided to narrate the woman as an ass, right? Doing silly shit, right? Sometimes over dramatic, right? Sometimes evil spirited to harm another human being because they don't get their way. Sometimes a bit childish and immature to utilize their father as a weapon, opposed to teaching her how to grow up. And these kind of talks is known as, and there's jackass in the box, Jack in the box, and then there are jackasses out of the box, right? And jackasses out of the box are those who find a way to be an asswipe, right? Outside of the detailed confines that are already narrated in biblical context or elsewhere. Okay? This is why you hear some people say you got to think outside the box, and they're saying that as in, if you want to get away with what you're doing, right? Do not be in the ways or narratives that are already detailed and have already been shown and documented from experimentation on people. Let me give you an example. Okay? And unfortunately, this comes from people whom I took in as near and dear, who wanted to uplift them, but the MO was to harm me, right? And that came in the form of if they had to harm my children as well in order to get to me. So let me give you an example. There's a family structure of the dad being in the home, right? And the daughter may be going through her own emotional issues where she's never matured emotionally. She's never learned how to grow up emotionally. She's never been made to grow up emotionally. Okay? And so what she does is utilize her father to be her weapon. Right? There was this skit where the girl was starting stuff with her man, and she was upset. She was out of control, and she started the ish with him, and then said she was going to tell her dad. Okay? And so this is the concept that was happened that I went through, where I had to witness this behavior in a female whose parent is not teaching her, because perhaps he doesn't want to step into that position where they say, oh, a woman can't teach a man, right? Or raise boys. He doesn't want to feel like a man can't raise up a girl, right? So she's stagnant, right? The Bible uses the term foolish, right? When you understand biblical text and it talks about the anger of a man, get down. Get down. Waffles, get down. And a woman takes advantage of that. She's not a woman. She's emotionally immature. She's spiritually immature. She's lacking, right? So in the scenario, when there's a setup, and a setup outside the box, it may come across looking as though you bring someone in close to you, perhaps a single mom and her children, right? And then you allow your daughter, first of all, you allow any of your children to create the scene or the scenario of there to be a problem or an issue, whether that's pretend to be the friend or befriend one of the children, or the stepchildren be friends or become friends in the household. And then the child of the weaponized dad that's been taken advantage of by his own children creates a scenario of chaos, right? And now the other child is just trying to be friendly, connect with them. You know how guys get together and they laugh and they joke and they have a good time, right? But the daughter, who wants to either be shown how she's puppeteering her dad, or is being puppeteered by her dad to play along with his wanting to be angry and violent and murderous, goes along with the scenario, right? So these young adults are growing up playing together. It may get a little loud or rowdy, right? Now the daughter wants it to be quiet, and she asks only the other. She doesn't ask her sibling to be quiet, but the other child who's being pulled into the laughter and the enjoyment and the playfulness with the brother. She doesn't ask her brother to be quiet. And then she tries to get her way in coming to the mother and saying, handle your son, right? Now the mother trying to offer her a level of maturing, growing up, stop being emotionally a child, tells her, look, it's them and there, you're at an age where you all can speak to each other or amongst each other in love, being melanated Afro kins, right? You go in there and let them know. I said, the example was given to, look, as a woman having a crown of your own, we have to be able to speak to our men, right? So it was suggested, look, they're all in their plan. I can't get up and just choose to tell my child not to have a good time amongst you all. And so now she feels, and perhaps her dad feels, disrespected, because they feel like they're supposed to get their way when they want it, anytime they want it, or there's going to be consequences, and perhaps murderous ones, deathful ones, right? Because they don't want to move out of this emotional level of immaturity. Okay, so now the daughter doesn't want to have to handle a grown-up situation, right, where she has to go and speak not only to her sibling but to another male who's bonding or creating a unity of kinship and friendship with a guy that's not her sibling, right? And so they harbor all that anger, they harbor all that weight of rejection, never understanding, no, it's just me offering to you. Perhaps if, the scenario is their mother failed in some way, or their grandmother failed in some way, it's just a way to extend to you a level of thinking and emotional control. But instead, the tantrum says, I didn't get my way, and therefore I'm going to make you pay. Right? And so now all this anger and resentment and things are being harbored to the point where you plan out and analyze how you can harm me and by harming my child. Right? Because this is misuse of power. However, the narrative of someone being a jackass out of the box never resonates, firstly because, like I said, it's out of the box, right? But the spirit will always reveal evil, wickedness, demonic things outside of the spirit. It just wasn't narrated yet, right? And so you take the anger of a dad or a man, you take the immaturity of or what the biblical text called the ass of a female being an ass, right? You take the lack of understanding, or you take spiritual ignorance, you take hatred, you take a level of tantrum, you take in consideration of a physique that hovers over many other people, taking consideration to your stature, right? And you mix all of those together and you come up with schemes to unalive someone whom you're saying that you care about, and it's obviously showing care about you and your children, to create a level of harm and hardship on her, all in the name of loving you through your immaturity and your ignorance. Right? Now, normally I would just speak to the person on what the Spirit is showing. I would reveal, hey, this is what God is showing me, this is what the Spirit is showing. But because the act of unaliving has taken place, it's something that has to be recorded. Right? So now it has to do away with jackass out of the box. Right? And it puts you in a position of being a jackass in the box, and it being shown and known to the spiritual. But it also establishes a place or a space where the one who's loved and cared for you, right, to have to see that you actually do not have love and care for yourself. It was a mind mystery to you for someone of a beautiful soul or a beautiful spirit or a beautiful being to have actual genuine love and care for you and the children you created with someone else. It's known as the wisdom of Solomon. And you rejected it all for a tantrum in your adult age. So, everything is evolving. We're all growing. We're all supposed to be maturing. Mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and with age. And that doesn't happen to all folks because they do not want to put the effort into doing that. They want to throw around bodily strength, right? Or they want to misuse and abuse mental strength, right? Having no understanding of what they're doing or the power that they've tapped into. And this is why you need a family structure of a father and a mother, because the male would be taken advantage of and weaponized, having no sense of nurturing calm about them, right? And now they're going to have to be in a scenario of who is the puppeteer and who is the puppet. Who's the one dangling the strings? The daughter or the father? Right? And who's the one, a double-minded man being unstable in all his ways, will be tossed to and fro? And we're out here making children, wanting to be grown, have sex, and yet never really jumping into responsibility or growing with responsibility. Then you hide from accountability. And you hurt people unnecessarily. Right? Can't always bank on hurt people, because I've been hurt a lot. But at what point do you learn? At what point do you grow up? So now there's a child going, all from the basis of having loved your kinfolk. But we all blame the white man. The white man's probably, perhaps, just following the lead of a wise warrior who utilizes his gifts in ignorance, right? And actually, that part of it is not so out of the box, because I believe biblical text talks about how even Solomon has been wise and has been foolish. But then you have to ask, where did that, when you puppeted to utilize your children or the children of someone else, where did that leave them? Right? So it's it's my harsh reality. And I'm not on here trying to woo you with my looks. I'm not on here trying to soften your heart. The Bible says, let not thy heart be hardened. And the evidence shows that it already had been hardened, because you failed to recognize and comprehend love when it was in your presence. And you tell yourself to now have a tantrum about it because you're not getting your way, while you're expecting me to continue to act as an adult when I've had a child unalived and taken from me. Right? So, on that note, I hope y'all start to understand and recognize what you're doing. You're either a jackass in the box, or you're going to operate as a jackass out of the box if you're not going to embrace your spiritual and imaged character of God, calling those who do and those who mature ignorant and idiots for following a guideline, right? Not in the manner of how it is scripted, scripturing or writing down the idiocracy of human beings, but actually seeing the spirit of love. All that happened was you continued in being or acting as an idiot. You felt like it was a level up because it was a play out of ignorance and idiocracy outside of the confines of what had already been recorded as an issue between human beings, and finding or celebrating black love. So you are also a problem, right along with white supremacy, in continuing the divisiveness and division of black family and black household, lacking respect and honor where honor is due. So on that note, I hope you all find something in your heart. I wouldn't know what to tell you to look for, but it's evident it isn't love. L-O-V-E-P-H. And that word L-O-V-E-P-H is because they removed that. That was part of the destruction of us. They removed the pH of love. When you break down that word, the P stood for the papa or the dad of the house, and the H is the spirit. And that's exactly what you see they've done to black families. Remove the father out the house and made you estranged to the spirit. These make up the letters PH, balance. That's why they give you L-O-V-E. And you went right along following his ways, or the white man's ways, and then feel like you're unique in a way because you took his hatred and evil and demonic ways and advanced them to the spreading it to your own children to operate in it, right? And killing and murdering young black men with the threat of extending that onto women as well if they tell your ways. So that's a message from the Spirit. Take it how it resonates.